Hello, welcome to another episode of To the Edge. With me again as co-host is Mike Messier.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Roland.
And we have our guest, Rosemary Pacheco,
Glad to be here.
who is here to talk about Motif magazine.
Right. Motif magazine.
What can you tell us about Motif?
Motif has been around for a while, but it just changed hands back in December. So it always had a website for about, I'm going to say 10 years, but now it's very interactive. Michael Ryan bought the magazine, and he's really changing it all around, so it's kind of interesting. We've got everything from film reviews to all arts and entertainment local in Rhode Island. We do reach out into Mass as well, because a lot of people who are working on projects from Mass come down to Rhode Island, as you know. And I write the film news. And it's not really an article. I want to call it, we sort of joke and call it the ticker tape of all the articles, because it's like this is going on, this is going on, this one's doing this. And it's sort of a ticker tape of all the information of who's doing what. And I try to keep really up to date on it, and it's a little bit difficult because there is a lot going on in Rhode Island.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, no, it's a good problem to have. And, I've talked about Mike, there's a lot of things going on. Mike knows that too. I mean, the indie film world is huge. There are union films coming through that are just, on set right now in Providence. We're writing about those. There's so much going on that it's almost, I have to really keep everything in different folders because it's so hard to, you've got to get everything straight for people, obviously. But it's a lot of fun. I like doing it. So.
How did you get hooked up with Motif, Rosemary?
Excuse me, years? Okay, back in 2008 to 2010, I went back to URI to school, and Mike Ryan was my professor.
Yeah.
And he works with the Rhode Island Film Collaborative, as you guys are aware of.
Sure.
The Film Collaborative helps a lot of people make their independent films. Mike at the time was, I don't know if he was a director, but he was sort of running the Film Collaborative. And it's a very popular organization in Rhode Island for filmmakers.
Right.
Mike told me about the Film Collaborative. I joined, I went to some networking through there. And then I found out recently that Mike decided he was going to buy Motif magazine. So I knew him from them. He knew I could write a little. So he asked me, he's like, you seem to know what's going on in the film world. Why don't we do something with that? So there are other writers who cover film, but they'll do specific articles. They might take a specific project and write about it. Mm-hmm. I sort of do, like I said, the ticker tape type of thing. And we do film reviews as well now, which is an interesting, we do sort of a Siskel and Ebert type show. And I do that with Nick Iandolo, and it's called, it's called Take Two. Yep. And Nick and I vehemently oppose each other on what we like and don't like in the movie world. So they thought it would be good to put us two together and do film reviews.
So these are films in general, right? Not just independent films?
These are films that are currently playing in theaters. Because, if I do a review on an independent film and you can't see it, it's not going to mean much to the viewer.
Right. So it's more of a mainstream
Yes,
up for grabs.
The film reviews are, but my ticker tape touches on all the independent projects that are going on.
Yeah, I've been in the ticker tape. It's fun.
Yeah, I've had Mike in there twice, 2 or 3 times. He's actually coming up again. Soon.
Good. I'll take it.
So, sometimes I try to get on set and interview some of the actors.
Right.
Sometimes, Mike is doing a film, Chris and the Coffee Girl, and, I'll talk to him about that, but what I'll do is I'll try to get on set for one day and maybe get an interview with Mike or Maria, his star.
Sure.
We try to do that as well to get some good quotes from the actors or the directors or even the camera people, just to give people a better sense of what's going on in the project. So,
what can you tell us about your experience with that?
Well, Rosemary has featured Blood Sugar Sedace and Chris and the Coffee Girl in her column, and it's very rewarding to get some coverage and just to have that enthusiasm from a great writer to know that what we're doing is appreciated. And then we've used that, for press kits and so forth. We've been able to show your column to people that say, hey, we are getting some coverage. There's some interest and momentum in the Rhode Island scene. And the great thing with a magazine like Motif is that because of the website, because of the internet, it goes everywhere.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
that's the day and age that we're in. 20 years ago, if you wrote a local paper, that would be in your local community. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
But
right?
with the internet, it can reach out to the rest of New England, the rest of the country, the rest of the world, and it's
Yeah.
just so powerful. So it's great.
And that's one of Mike's goals, because Mike Ryan used to own, he used to be a large part of Envision Technology, a company in Providence. He's no longer with the company.
Okay.
He sold it. But he's a master at web and SEO, search engine optimization. So right now we're doing MoTV, which is the TV end of Motif magazine. So he's really, when we get these clips really set, with the logos and the special effects and all this, he's really going to SEO that so it hits the world. I mean, he really wants to get it out there. And he's, Mike's big thing is, let's make Rhode Island a center of entertainment
Sure.
and acting and digital multimedia, and because there's so many talented people here, and I have to agree. I mean, look at all the
Right.
people you have making films, making web series, documentaries. You've got Providence Pictures, who won 6 Emmys for, that's Gary Glassman. There's so much talent in Providence and in Rhode Island itself that I get excited talking about it, because as a young kid, I went to art school in Chicago, and I thought, gee, there's not much in Rhode Island.
Right.
I'm going to hit the big city. I'm going to go to school. I was gone for 12, 13 years. Came back and found out that, there's a lot going on here. It's not boring by any means. There's tons of things in Rhode Island and New England, and we're putting it out there, and we're really determined to let people know who's here, what they're doing.
Yeah, if you think about it per ratio and per capita, I guess, or per person,
Yeah.
the amount of talent or people that have come from Rhode Island that have gone on to national or international success. Even a guy like Tim Daly that people don't think about as a
Right.
Rhode Islander, but he was in the movie Diner and on the show Wings.
Yep.
He lives in Rhode Island. James Woods went to Pilgrim High School in Warwick, Rhode Island,
Yep.
the great actor James Woods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, the
Right.
usual people that people talk about, but there's a whole
Right. There's a whole group of people who have, some live elsewhere now. Like there's Michael Shaver, edited a film called Fruitvale. Fruitvale just won the best award at Sundance.
Wow.
Fruitvale is about a young man that got killed in the Bay Area Rapid Transit, one of the BART stations in the San Francisco area, I believe. I could have that wrong, but I think it's San Francisco. And the young man got killed. He made a documentary. He edited, the documentary, and it just that's fantastic. And you've got Jennifer Lee, who co-wrote Wreck-It Ralph, also a Rhode
Wow.
Islander.
Wow.
Yeah,
Didn't
you've
know
got
that.
a lot of stuff right. And Gary, like I mentioned before, he's 6 Emmys. Low radar. There's so many people in the state that I could rattle off. It just I'd go on for the whole show, but I just like people to know about that. And I thought, what an interesting opportunity I have from Mike Ryan to let people know about all this. And
Right.
It's just covers arts and entertainment, not just film. I just wanted to make that clear.
Sure.
Arts and culture, dining, everything arts and entertainment in Rhode Island.
What's the staff of Motif currently? How many people work for it?
Mike he's got a lot of people. He's got a lot of young people working for him. He's got probably 10 or 12 article writers. I'm not sure. That's a good question for Mike.
Well, if there are too many, that's a good sign.
No, he's got a lot, but that's a good question for Mike. He's got, different people cover different things.
Court Fisk, Mary DeBerry, some really good people,
you're
great
right. Court
writers.
Fisk writes. You're right.
Yeah.
Mary DeBerry, Uriah Donnelly, great writer for film stuff. I'm trying to think of who else is in it. There's a girl named Josefa. She does Dare
Josefa,
Me.
yeah.
Yeah, she does a column called Dare Me, and people write in and dare her to do so. She's hilarious.
I think I might have heard of that.
Yeah, she's funny. You should have her on the show. She's really funny. He's developing a lot of things, and so it's all new. And he's really, really making this site interactive, which I'm really happy about. The film reviews are just starting. Take 2, that'll be out soon. They're actually editing it now to go up online. So he's really interested in putting a lot of good ideas into this magazine and making it way different than it was before. It was good before, but now it's It's edgy, it's hip, it's out there. It's really, really pushing to let people know what's going on.
It's to the edge.
It is to the edge. You know what? This is a good show to promote it because it is to the edge.
The
And
paper-
I'm happy to be a part of it. This too.
Motif came out in 2004 by a gentleman named Jim Vickers, is that correct?
I think you're right. I
Yeah.
do not know because I wasn't, involved
Right.
with it then, but I believe you are correct.
But it's nice that Motif is taking this step forward because it is a brand or a name that people in Rhode Island are familiar with. You say Motif magazines, oh, I saw that at such and such cafe, or I saw that at the
Yeah.
coffee house, I saw that at the restaurant, I picked it up, I read that every week or once a month. And so when you take that familiarity with the name and then expand it and move it forward with technology and the interaction and more people like yourself involved, it's a great thing.
Yeah. I just want to mention too that they do a lot with music. They've got the Motif Music Awards, which is great. I would like to get them to do the Motif Film Awards. They do not do that,
They
but
should.
I am pushing for it.
Yeah.
Mike doesn't know this yet, but when I chat with him, I'm going to say, Mike, what about if we do the film? Because we don't have this local film awards.
Right.
We've got Rhode Island Film Festival, and they do. Everyone. There are different festivals, sure, and there's the Scene Festival, which we wrote about, which is coming up.
they
But
just start
we don't
doing-
do a film award for Motif.
Did they just start doing the music awards like last year, or has it been going on a while?
That's a good. I don't know. I think it's been going on a while. I'm pretty sure it's been going on, at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
Wow, then it's a legitimate
Yeah.
surprise that they haven't done the same with the movies yet.
Yeah. So we're gonna, I think he may have that in the back of his mind, but we're gonna put it up to him and see what he says.
I know a bunch of films that should definitely be nominated. And
Yeah.
at the risk of dating this show, I was on set a few days ago for Ian Monroe. I'm a script
yeah.
supervisor on
Yep.
that film.
Yep.
And we were in a location, and at random, I saw a Motif magazine.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're everywhere. They're
great.
everywhere. They're definitely everywhere.
What's your background in journalism or writing? Do you,
Well, I have a design background.
Okay.
In the course of my employment history, I was a product designer for about 22 years. I worked in jewelry and luxury goods.
wow.
Yep, it was
What is a
fun.
luxury good, just to clarify?
Watches,
Okay.
luggage, anything that's more high end. And
Okay.
during the course of that, we would have to come up with some packaging. Well, you've got to. A lot of times, I ended up writing the packaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
The wording on the packaging, or I'd come up with the tagline for the product or the slogan or whatever.
Right.
And so I was good at it. So I just, and then I got into copywriting a little bit freelance, and I just still do that.
Yeah.
How was copywriting and freelancing?
It's, different accounts will come to you and say, hey, can you write? I'm not a technical writer. I'll leave that to the people who do the technical writing, but I can do some pretty good copy when it comes to fashion, beauty. I worked in the beauty industry, beauty and luxury goods industry for a long time. So, I wrote a lot of copy there for packaging, as I said, collateral materials, stuff like that. So I just was comfortable with it. So putting that together with the film news, it just seemed, it was easy to write. I put a little bit of personality into it. You can tell when you read the column, there's a little bit of personality, and I'll try to, it's a fun little read. It's not heavy.
Right.
It's very light, very lighthearted, so I try to keep it that way.
So the articles, they're not too dense, like
No.
10,000 words and all that.
No, you're talking like a ticker tape of, you've got like a paragraph on,
Yeah.
Mike and his movie,
Right.
and then you'll have the next one, oh, this is what Chris Esper's doing, this is what Anthony Ambrosino and the boys at 989 are doing,
Yeah.
and these are what the students in Rhode Island are doing. The students are amazing me lately. These URI students, these Rick's, Seth is a Rick student.
The previous guest.
Yeah,
Previous show for
I'm
those students,
sorry,
too.
Seth Chitwood, who was here.
Previous episode.
He's a Rick student and a senior. Another young lady, Ashton Avila, from URI, great filmmaker, just won a first award in LA. There's a Carolyn Colton from RISD. Anthony and Nick from 989 just produced her film called New Shoes. There's a lot going on. I run a kids group for actors on Facebook called the New England Kids Actors Group, and one of our kids was in this New Shoes film. So, I also put the kids in the film column, so there's a lot going in
That
there.
must be fun. And they must be proud to see their names mentioned in there. And
They
the
are.
parents.
They're very, the parents, you know, they're like, oh, thank you for mentioning, you know, it's so great. They work so hard. And
Right.
I got to tell you, those little kids are hard workers. They're
I bet.
hard
How old are the kids?
workers. Anywhere, they go right up to 17, 18 years old.
What's the lower
So
end
with the
of the
lower
range?
end on that would be like, 3.
Wow.
Yeah, we got 3-year-olds in films, and we've got two of our twins, the Jush twins. I hope I'm saying that right. We're just in a principal role in Infinitely Polar Bear, union film that's in Providence right now. So we're happy about what the kids are doing as well. So we write about it. We put it in, the column is called Seen and Heard, Seen, SCENE, and Heard, in Motif magazine, and it's a great publication and a great website, motifri.com.
Nice.
Yeah. Can you plug that again?
Sure, it's motifri.com, so it's motifri.com.
Great.
And I noticed that you also have a Facebook page and a Twitter feed.
I do have a Facebook page. My Twitter feed is for my business, which is I have a wedding and event business. I don't know if you want
it's
me
not
to
a Twitter
mention
feed.
that.
No. It's not a Twitter feed for a Motif in particular.
No, it's not a Twitter feed for that.
Oh,
It's,
my apologies.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And
But the Facebook page.
the Facebook page is, what is the address for the Motif? You know, I'll have to get you that because I don't know.
Oh, people can just look it up. If
Yeah,
you-
they
if
can
you-
look it up because
do a
there's
search.
there's 2 pages right now and they're phasing out of one and going to the other.
You
Okay.
Just type in Motif.
Yeah,
You'll
type
find
in
it.
Motif, you'll find
it out there.
Exactly.
What's on the
Exactly.
Motif page?
The Motif page on Facebook, you mean,
Yes.
or
Well, both of them. We'll do one at a time.
for the website, you've got everything from local happenings, current happenings, film, dining, any art openings, any of the music-inspired events. Rock and Reel,
Right.
which is in there. I think, Mike, you're
I'm the host.
the
or
host of
co-host,
Rock and Reel. So we're
of
covering
the
Rock and Reel.
Rap
Yeah.
party, or the rap
Covering
showings.
the Scene Music and Art.
Yep,
I'm
it's
sorry,
going on.
Film Music and Art Festival.
Yep.
Scene is a big deal in Rhode Island. We cover everything, all your local cultural events. The Oscar party they just had back in, when was that, February? There's quite everything.
There's the new artist exchange in
new artist
Cranston, Rhode
exchange.
Island, for those that might sweep through Rhode Island. In
Yep.
Rolfe Square, this once again an established name in Rhode Island, the Artist
Yes.
Exchange, but they recently opened up a new facility, Roland, that has twice the seating, a little cafe area.
Yeah.
And they work with, the Artist Exchange works with, I believe, Gateways for Change, if they still work with them. And they help developmentally
yeah.
disadvantaged people with the arts. And so then they also do plays and music, and they just had a big opening for their new location in Rolfe Square, so that's very exciting.
It's a noble
It is.
cause.
Yeah, it's very good.
It is
And
a very, very good cause.
they help out local artists like myself. Rosemary was there. We had a script reading for Chris and the Coffee Girl, and
Yep.
very fair setup for the Artist Exchange to open on a Friday night, let us come in and have a good
Yep.
time, and so on and so forth. So I think it's cool that these Rhode Island, kind of as a tangent, but as some of these things like Motif and Artist Exchange and even AS220 in downtown
Yep.
Providence, they are moving forward with the times. Things that were
They are.
started maybe in the 80s or even the 70s, 90s. Now with this new 2013, they're
Yeah.
moving forward. They're
They are.
not with the whole internet that's been around for 10, 20 years now, and so on and so forth. They're not being stagnant. They are progressing. It's
Correct.
great.
It is great, and it's really putting the word out for what's in Rhode Island. And a lot of people from Massachusetts, like I mentioned before, New Hampshire, Maine, even Connecticut for sure, coming into Rhode Island and taking part in these projects. Or they're coming to auditions, or they're looking at Motif and picking it up and going, hey, I could go to that audition. Or somebody from Rhode Island goes to an audition that might be up in Maine because they saw it in Motif. Because we know actors will travel, so we
Oh,
will,
yeah.
Definitely.
so we will put audition information that is not in Rhode Island in the Rhode Island publication.
Right.
But we really, the projects that are going on, and like I said, music, arts, dining, there's so many restaurants, there's so many things to do in Rhode Island
Oh, yeah.
that it's a great place to cover.
It's more than I ever thought. I knew next to nothing about Rhode Island until
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover there. So it's just it's cool. It's interesting. It's fun.
You talk about actors moving around, Roland and Rosemary. I mean, when I had that audition for just 2 roles in Chris and the Coffee Girl. We had actors from 4 states.
You had a lot of people.
You know, we had like 30 people in 2 days. We had New Hampshire, Connecticut, Mass, and Rhode Island, and that's what I'm aware of. If anyone,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, we had someone from New Hampshire come down, so that was really exciting, and it's great. You know,
That's cool.
and Roland's been
awesome.
coming in to the Brooklyn Coffee and Tea House to do some coverage and come to some events there, and it's accessible. Right, and one good thing about Rhode Island, at least you can park. You know, you can
Definitely.
you can park on the street and not pay
You
20,
can.
30 bucks to park for the night. You know, which is nice. It makes a difference, actually. You know,
Yeah.
when I mean, I love Boston. However, when you go into Boston, you know it's going to be a trip. You know, between.
It
you
can
know.
be a little difficult, but we love Boston.
Oh, of course.
Send our love to Boston, but
Yeah, great city.
it's it's just cool. It's like a nice little. It's a good community to write about, and you really got some talent coming out of RISD. You really got some talent coming out of, I don't care what it is, Brown University. You know, all these schools, Rhode Island College. You've got actors. You've got it's just so much. There's so much coming out of these schools that are really top notch. And, you know, some of them are sticking around and doing some really good things with their creativity, and that's what I love about it.
It's good that they're building up Rhode Island instead of just going to California, which is
This
becoming
is-
oversaturated.
This is what I like, and I hope, you know, I mean, you know, the people that want to move to the West Coast with their creativity, the actors, directors, writers, or musicians even, artists, whatever they want to do, that's cool. I love it, though, when they stay here and they just, you know, they want to make this a center.
Right.
You know, Rhode Island, New England.
It
even,
should be.
a center, because there's so much here, you know. And I'd love to just, you know, turn this East Coast into that whole thing where you get the same opportunities you're going to get in New York or LA.
Well,
You know?
You're hitting on some nerves that our friend from the Hollywood East Actors Group, Erica Derrickson, who'll
yep.
probably be on the show at some point. Roland, I would think
Yes.
she has some of the same mantras that you were just saying. You know, develop the area here and not worry about
Yep.
the West Coast so much, because LA is always going to be LA. They're not going to be lacking for jobs in Los Angeles for actors and everything.
Yep.
But to create more of an environment right here is good.
Absolutely.
You know, with internet and with cable TV and with, you know,
Yep.
Netflix or whatever on demand, there's always going to be room for more and more entertainment, hopefully. And so
Yes.
people like us and yourself and just trying to make more and more stuff, because that gives the viewer more options.
That's right.
It's an easier chance for people to even get involved, because if you live here and the only way you can get in is through California, you have to actually move to California. You have to afford to move, so you'd have to do something else to be able to move.
Right.
This
Catch
is true.
22.
Well, unfortunately for me, or for some of my friends, I've known some really, really good actors, not more recently, but, you know, 10 years ago, who've moved out to Los Angeles with big hopes, big dreams, big goals, and they end up bartending, you know, for 5, 10 years, and their talents are not going to full use because they made that move too soon, you know. Not to say that they're obviously talented, but they just get out there without a game plan, without connections, and they suffer for
It
it.
can be hard. It
Yeah.
can be hard when you're not ready for it. It's a
Right.
whole different, I think, just a whole different way that you have to approach things.
Yeah.
You know? So it can be difficult, but, you know, hey, more power to anyone who wants to make that move. And I would love to see people stay here and really make, you know, the Northeast even, you know, the whole Rhode Island, Mass, Connecticut, all of New England. I would love to see them make this a center of, you know, a multimedia center.
Right.
And Gary Glassman, who I mentioned before, who runs Providence Pictures, he is having meetings right now about that. He is calling people in to come up with a game plan, different filmmakers, reporters, writers, people in the arts and entertainment, calling them in to see how can we do that? How can we make, you know, Rhode Island a multimedia center? It's an interesting guy, but hopefully that'll happen, and I'll be glad to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we can do a lot more than just The Departed.
Yeah. That's funny.
Good movie, not my favorite. It was a Scorsese movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it won just an aside, it won Best Picture that year, but it wasn't my favorite Scorsese. I would
Yeah.
go with Goodfellas. I think that was
Yeah.
Scorsese too.
The
right?
accents were really off. It's like, this is grating on the ears, and I live here.
I think there was
Yeah.
a Nicholson quote. He said, "We're going down to Providence" or something.
Yeah.
It was-
I'm gonna pack the cat.
Oh man. So what's next for Rosemary? I mean, not only I was going to say besides Motif, but in addition to Motif.
In addition to Motif, oh my goodness. Okay, well, I just wrapped a film called Collected Soul. Interesting little sci-fi thriller. I play a very evil woman. All about technology taking over the individual mind and making it a collective mind.
Sounds like the Borg.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, and it's like, okay, but we've got that's an interesting little film. It's in post right now. I'm also in another small film coming up, Artifact by Roz Cunningham. I'm working on that. I've got 14 episodes to shoot for Seth Chitwood for Red Circles. I play a cop, Detective Gretchen Lewis, and the cop training came in handy there. And beyond, I'm writing for Motif, and then we're doing the film reviews called Take Two. Nicholas Iandolo and myself, who will be doing those reviews once a month. There's some other surprises that we don't know about yet that Mike mentioned to us for Motif.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there, but it all sounds like a lot of fun.
Will you be reviewing the stuff that you were in, or would that be too weird?
I don't think so, because we're not. I think we want to stick with what's readily available, so that people, when they hear the review, they can go see it, or they know, hey, I want to see that film.
What's your favorite film recently, a mainstream motion picture that?
My favorite film recently, mainstream. I did like The Life of Pi a lot.
Okay.
I'm an Ang Lee fan.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, I'm
That was
a
fun.
big Ang Lee fan.
Very
So
deep movie.
yeah, I loved it. Actually, I thought that the imagery was fantastic. I loved the storyline, and I loved the fact that when he was the whole premise is him telling a story to another person. That other person is not quite sure if what he's saying is the truth. He
Right.
doesn't know if it's imagination or truth, and I love that. And like I said, the work to me was fantastic. I know people say, well, it's a lot of CGI. Yes, it is a lot of CGI, but the storyline is the imagery is so beautiful. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I was like, I got to see this again just to pay attention to what they're saying. I mean, it was so beautiful, and the story is really touching. Again, Ang Lee fan here, so I'm not gonna. But I recommend people see that. But that was, to me, was my favorite recently.
It was a big year for movies, I thought. You had Silver Linings
Yes.
Playbook, you had Lincoln.
I have to see Lincoln.
Lincoln was awesome.
Lincoln was fantastic.
I won't tell you how it ends.
Nope.
Does the president get assassinated?
Oh, yeah. Somebody must have told you.
Oh, you heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that out in 8th grade, unfortunately. Maybe sooner.
But, Silver, I just saw the movie with the interesting title, Beyond the Pines.
The Place Beyond the Pines, which
Yeah.
we just reviewed for Motif.
Just saw it yesterday.
Nick and I reviewed that, and we somewhat agreed on it. I said a Motif must see.
Yes.
Nick said it's a C if you got nothing else to do.
When you're writing the articles, is it a collaborative, or do you write your separate reviews?
No, we write separate reviews, and then we come in and we talk about it. We don't really. It's not in print. It's on camera from MoTV.
Right.
So I'll sort of put my notes down, and I'll say okay, and then we'll get on the set and we'll talk about it, and we'll just sort of have a chat, just like we're doing now.
So real quick, what's the format of MoTV? Is it kind of like a news show where you touch upon different things?
Nope. I'm sorry. MoTV. Yes.
Yes.
I'm thinking the film reviews. Yes. MoTV. They what they do is they have different people talk about all little bits of arts and entertainment highlights of that week's.
So it's kind of like a Talk Soup or Entertainment Tonight,
Yes.
things like that.
Yes. Yes.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this episode of To the Edge. I
Okay.
hope to see you all next weekend. Thanks for coming on, Rosemary.
All right. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Welcome.